More places are welcoming dogs than ever before. We've got breweries, cafe patios, farmers markets, and I love that. But I also see the same 5 behaviors killing it for everyone. Every dog that gets asked to leave makes it harder for the next dog. And honestly, there's a good chance you and your dog are part of the problem. But most of these aren't training mistakes at all. I'm Heather Furby with Castellina Canines, and this is the Pub Dog Project, where we care less about perfect behavior and more about whether you and your dog can actually function in public. Let's talk about dogs going public. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what these 5 behaviors are and why they get you and everyone else banned or kicked out, and actually what to do about them, because we want you and your dog to be noticed for the right reasons. These behaviors all have one thing in common. They're generally not training failures. They're preparation failures. We're asking so much more of our dogs today than ever before, and if we want them to succeed in public, we have to do a better job of preparing them for public life. So remember that, because public spaces aren't where you train these skills. It's generally where you discovered that you forgot to. So let's start with the biggest behavior. You've got the wrecking ball arriver. So that dog is dragging you in through the door. In the entrance, they're scanning, they're hitting the end of the leash. The guardian, you, probably already flustered or not even paying attention to your dog. So most often when dogs walk into a space, they're looking for other dogs. They're saying, who owns this space? Is it safe? Do I belong? They're not thinking, hey, I'm on an outing with my buddy. So we also need to realize that when they enter, they're taking in smells. We can't even begin to hit where that brain and smells come together for dogs. So real side geek note, fun fact, did you know that a dog's nose is 10,000 times to 1 million times more sensitive than a human's? Depends on the breed of the dog. And they can breathe in and out while sniffing and cataloging other scents. And they use their right nostril. They tend to use that for new scents and novelty, unfamiliar things. They use their left nostril for more familiar scents. And they can smell emotions. They can smell lingering things that happened days ago. And they can smell emotions and interactions from days ago. So they're taking all of that in the moment they walk in the door. So this outing was won or lost way before you crossed the threshold. Why your wrecking ball arrival gets you banned is that staff says over and over they make their decision at the door. Meaning, your amped up, disconnected dog, disconnected owner signals the whole visit is probably going to be a problem already. So they're already cued in to watching you and looking for excuses to maybe ask you to leave. But we've got a simple fix. How to fix this is just called the pre-entry reset. All you need to do is decide you're only walking in when both you and your dog are connected and ready to go in. Just pause a few feet back from the door, take a breath, make sure your dog is paying attention to you and you are paying attention to your dog. And it's just like if you're walking in with family or friends, and if you're in a heated discussion, a lot of people need to take a moment to make sure everybody gets on the same page before we enter a space. Same goes here, same with your dog. So just take that beat. Make sure you're on the same page, give you both a minute to settle, both a minute to acknowledge where you are, and then enter safely. So the second behavior is for your dog is called the over talker. So due to all of these sights, sounds, and smells that we've already talked about, your dog is taking in an over amount of information. And they want to tell you all about it. They want to tell you everything that they see, hear, smell, and if it's safe or not safe. So we get barking, whining. We have alerting. And it's really inability to disengage with the environment once they've started engaging and telling you all about it. So sometimes a trigger is that chair or stool pulling across the floor, but very often it's another dog entering the space. Because, what did we say? Dog-friendly spaces are going to have other dogs. So why this noise and over-talking gets you banned is that noise, frankly, disrupts other patrons, and it can be annoying. Your staff hesitates to approach when a dog's barking, so they usually tell management Then once management comes over, you're usually on your way to exiting. So that's why this can get you kicked out, but there's a fix. So what to do to fix it? Create distance. Distance is your friend. You want to distance yourself between you and other goings on. Even a few loud barks can make other patrons feel uncomfortable, and it draws the attention of the staff. So you choose a space away from busy pathways. You can let your dog face maybe a less stimulating environment, so they're facing a quieter direction. And then also give them small check-ins to remind them, like, hey, we're here together. I'm with you. It's not just you on your own and me sitting here. So you're talking to your dog as opposed to them announcing everything that's going on in the space. Most important is build this skill outside the public environment, which means around your home, on walks, in quieter places that you and your dog are together and your dog's not in this alert mode all the time. Then you can step out into the public spaces. And then once you're out there, we've got our third behavior is the aggressively serial greeter. And not everyone wants to meet your dog. And your dog should not need to meet everyone or every other dog. So a dog jumping on strangers who make eye contact or who kind of pounce up and continuously pop up every time somebody's walking over from the table, or is, cannot just lay down and needs to make sure they say hi to everyone, that's uncomfortable and annoying for a lot of people. But if you're a server who's carrying hot food and stacks of glasses, then the moment hot food in the glass enters the equation, it stops being an annoying issue and becomes a safety issue. And that's when you get kicked out. Friendly enthusiasm is really unsafe in public spaces. So I guess it's also important to remember that not every dog-friendly business is dog-focused. They're a business and their primary customer is the human paying the bills. So they might not be focused on your dog. They don't need to say hi to your dog. So remember that aggressively serial greeter can get you kicked out. Why? Because one jump is enough. It's a liability for spills, for injuries, and for patrons who don't want to be greeted. So what do we need to do about it? Easiest thing is to manage that greeting radius. We want to teach orientation back to us rather than all of the environment. So again, we place our dog near the quieter side of the table or away from all the stimulation. We'll want to reward them often and rapidly at the beginning for any time they turn our attention back to us. We want to show them, I'm the one you want to hang out with, not everybody else. You can also give them a clear spot to hang out. So just bring a towel or a small blanket, a tiny bed, something that gives a clear marker that this is where you're hanging out and you don't need to pay attention to the rest of the world. Because when they're settled like this, we avoid behavior number 4, which is the patio pickpocket. And this is where your dog is stealing food. Dogs are experts at finding food. They're opportunistic creatures. And public space floors, the ground, is a buffet of smells and sights and things that make them curious. So we already talked about how amazing their nose is, but they're going to be nosing towards plates of food or hovering under your neighbor's table, especially if there's children at that table who are experts at dropping food that your dog wants to get to. They want to investigate to-go bags. So in places with food, it's really interesting. The owners often think, my dog just stole a fry. The servers and the business owner is thinking, your dog's starting to bother other customers. But the hidden risk is that your dog quite possibly just put their face into another dog's perceived resource. And that can lead to resource guarding in a lot of dogs. And resource guarding, that's fighting words for dogs in a lot of cases. So why this public pickpocket and stealing food gets you banned is that food theft isn't just a rude or a health code violation. It can be about making other patrons feel uncomfortable. And also, food is one of the fastest ways to create conflicts between other dogs. And if you're in a dog-friendly space, there are going to be other dogs. So we need to learn to share that space. So what do we do? The fix. Position your dog, again, on a quiet side, away from some of the smells and places they can get to. That short leash so they have less of an area to make decisions in. keep your dog under table right next to your leg so they can relax without being tempted to get everything. Obviously, keep bags and food away from where your dog can reach them. And again, that mat that allows them to settle under the table, nice comfy spot, they know it's theirs. That's where they're meant to stay. So a real reason why your dog can be this patio pickpocket is that they're often off leash or sitting up on the bench or seat at the table. That's going to bring us to behavior number 5, because that dog who just helped themselves to whatever's on the floor, that's the same dog whose owner is sitting across the patio saying, "Hey, don't worry, my dog's friendly, he's okay." So the behavior number 5 is for the "don't worry, he's friendly" dog, and we all know that dog. It's the one that we just say, "Oh my God, don't worry about it. My dog loves people. That's why he's jumping, running around, settling, barking," or not settling, barking, because he loves people. He's so friendly. Quick story. I'm friendly too. I like people. But I don't arrive in a store and yell, "Hey, I'm here," and then jump on the salesperson, maybe lick their face, spin them around. I spin around while I'm saying hello. I don't follow the bartender around for 90 minutes saying, "You got anything for me? You got anything for me? Hey, you still got anything for me?" And I certainly don't help myself to all the bread in other people's baskets and sample other people's drinks as I'm walking to the restroom, right? So that behavior, each one of those would get me kicked out. All of them together over 90 minutes stops being friendly, starts being exhausting. So look at that dog when we're saying, "Don't worry, he's friendly." It's either somebody else's dog, could be your own dog. We're all guilty of saying it at times, that they're wandering. They have this inability to settle, constant stimulation seeking and social seeking, meaning they're looking for other dogs. They're monitoring. Often these are the police dogs, or not real police dogs, but the policing dogs who are checking out every other dog, all the other movement in the public space. And like we said, some of the behaviors that we've mentioned are tolerable as one-offs, but when you put them all together and we've got our dog running around being that off-leash rogue dog, we're yelling, "Don't worry, my dog's friendly." Somebody else's dog or child is not friendly and doesn't want him. We're setting ourselves up for failure because it's going to get you booted. When your dog is off leash, obviously it becomes a real problem because it gets you banned. Just because you perceive your dog as friendly doesn't mean other dogs do and other people do. Your dog cannot be wandering off into other people's spaces and other dogs' spaces. So what's the fix? Practice, practice, practice. We need to practice structured, calm, under the table skills at home, in other locations before we go out into public. The dog needs to realize, if I see a table, I go under the table. If I see a chair, I go under the chair just to relax when we're out. You want to keep your dog next to you on leash. Definitely on leash. And it can be a short leash. 4 feet is plenty of decision-making space for them when they're in public. So we want to practice, again, loose leash communication, because often what happens with dogs and leashes is that it's a constant correction because we're pulling them back from everything they do because we didn't teach loose leash skills. So we need to know that we can practice loose leash as a form of communication, not as a form of frustration and correction and control. And if your dog sees the leash as something that limits their personal expression, you're going to have some problems in public. So those are the 5 behaviors that we're looking for, which is the wrecking ball arriver will get you kicked out. The over talker and noisy dog gets you kicked out. The aggressively serial greeter can get you kicked out. That patio pickpocket and the "don't worry, he's friendly" dog can all lead to getting you asked to leave or even banned from spaces. And you notice in a lot of these examples, other dog-dog interactions show up almost in every single one. And that's because inappropriate dog-dog interactions are very serious threat. And it's generally the most serious outcome to asking you to leave an establishment, because a fight or a bite may not be the most common reason we're asked to leave, definitely the most serious one. You can recover from a barking dog, but you can't recover from a dog fight on the patio. And we have to learn so much more as humans about how dogs interact in public, because in fact, they don't usually interact in public in a natural setting. The best socialized dog is one who ignores all other dogs and chooses you. But that's for a different time, different video. What you need to know is that going out with your dog it's a team sport. And think about when you go out with a friend. And if your friend spent the whole time being distracted or loud, obnoxious, trying to talk to everyone else but you, it's going to get tiring and you're going to have a hard time enjoying yourself. So the same goes with your dog. And if your dog is showing one or more of these behaviors, there's a good chance that the outing is just too much for them right now. It's useful information. It's not about a bad dog or bad training or a failure on your part. Public dogs in public, pub dogs, do not need to interact with every other dog or human they see. They just need to learn to function around them. Some days your dog's going to be able to settle. Other days, the timing, the environment, their stress level, it just might not be a good match. There's days you don't like to go out into public and be around crowds. There's going to be days your dog doesn't either. We just get to learn to listen to our dogs. So imagine sitting down at a restaurant and your dog just settles by your side without needing constant reminders of how to act. They're going to watch the world go by and take a breath. Another dog passes. Maybe they pop up and notice the dog, and then they decide, it's not for me, not worth my effort, and they just lie back down. So it's just two dogs sharing a space in public like it's supposed to happen. You get to enjoy your meal or your time with your friends or wander the store without feeling that tension and embarrassment, and your dog becomes the buddy that you don't have to worry about, which is a pub dog. So being out in public isn't a training test, it's a lifestyle. We've covered the 5 most common reasons your dog gets tossed out of public spaces. And remembering it's not a training problem, it's a preparation and readiness issue. So to understand if your dog's even ready to go out, go ahead and watch this video. I'm going to see you over there in 1 second.